Τι ωραία μέρα να ζει στην Κωνσταντινούπολη. Είμαι σίγουρος ότι τίποτα κακό δεν θα γίνει την 29η Μαΐου 1453.
Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul. Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, now it's Turkish delight on a moonlit night.
Merhaba and welcome to Turkey, a country famous for its food, vast empire, and inventing the shish kebab. No, not that one. That one. The country is located on the crossroads of the west and east, and it falls under the niche category of transcontinental country, as it is both in Europe and Asia. Around 97% of its territory occupies the Anatolian Peninsula. Meanwhile, only 3% is in the Balkans. This wasn't always the case, however, and if I say anything more, I'm assured to start yet another world war in the comment section.
Amına kodumun Yunanları, siktirin gidin, İstanbul bizimdi. Aya Sofia, Aya Sofia, Aya Sofia diyoruz, Hagia Sofia demiyoruz. Neden? Çünkü orası cami artık.
Anyways, Turkey borders 8 other countries. To the west, those being Greece and Bulgaria, in the south, Syria and Iraq, and to the east, Georgia, Armenia, Iran, and just barely Azerbaijan, as the country shares a 10-kilometer border with their exclave. The country is divided into 7 geographical regions, those being Marmara, the Aegean, the Mediterranean, Central Anatolia, the Black Sea, Southeast Anatolia, and Eastern Anatolia. Occupying such a wide area, Turkey is naturally a home to around 84.6 million people, with its largest city being Istanbul, which is located right on the Bosphorus Strait and has over 14 million inhabitants. Meanwhile, its capital and second largest city is Ankara, which can be found in central Anatolia, and it has a population of 4.5 million. But before we get into Istanbul, many thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring and creative classes for anyone who loves learning. Skillshare can help you make 2022 a year of new learning, growth, and connection through creativity. Invest in yourself and your personal growth. Have a specific skill you're trying to learn? Skillshare is the perfect place to start. Personally, I found Skillshare extremely easy to use, and as someone who is constantly making assets for my videos, I loved Skillshare's graphic design series from Ellen Lupton. The videos were more than engaging and really helped me take my meme making skills to a whole other level. So if you're looking to learn a new skill or brush up on that German you haven't used in a while and want to meet a great community with similar interests, click that link in the description and join Skillshare now. Also, the first 1,000 people to sign up with my link will get a 1-month free trial, so don't waste any time and go and check out Skillshare right now. Now, as Turkey is such a large country, and I am a poor Balkaner with just so much time and even less money, we'll primarily be focusing on Istanbul. Istanbul is arguably one of the world's oldest and historically most important cities. With a history that spans over 2.5 millennia, its excellent geographic location and architectural achievement, it is no wonder it's got the name of the City of World's Desire. As a settlement, it was first mentioned in history books in the 7th century BC, when it was founded by Greek settlers under the name of Byzantium. In the 4th century, with the split of the Roman Empire, the Emperor Constantine the Great moved the capital of the empire to today's Istanbul and renamed it to New Rome, and later on Constantinople, which would be the city's name for the next 1,600 years, and even beyond. Throughout the Middle Ages, the city became the cradle of Orthodox civilization. Across the city, you could find hundreds of sprawling churches and cathedrals, whose influence could be felt across the Balkans and throughout Eastern Europe, as missionaries from there spread across the continent and converted the Slavs, Vlachs, Avars, Khazars, and whoever else was a dirty little pagan and going straight to hell. Alongside this, Constantinople was the largest and wealthiest city in the world, as it made a huge fortune from trading via the Silk Road. However, this wasn't the case forever. With the coming of the High Middle Ages, the Crusades also came, in particular the Fourth Crusade, which ransacked and ravaged the city, leaving it in a worse state than a Nevada hooker at 4 a.m. in the morning. Accompanied with this, the Byzantine Empire, who was at the time still in control of the city, was in decline as the Seljuks were beating the ever-loving crap out of the Byzantines and gobbling up their territories bit by bit. The end of the empire, and Constantinople as we know it, came in the mid-14th century, when Sultan Mehmed II finally besieged the city after a draining 2-month campaign. Upon the conquering of Constantinople, the Sultan proclaimed as the new capital of the Ottoman Empire, dragging the city into a new age.
Popülasyonunuz zaten 5-7 milyon, siktirtmeyin ebenizi. O bütün şehir var ya, o bütün şehir sizin popülasyonunuzdan, sizin ülke.
After the fall of Byzantium, Constantinople became a metropolitan, multicultural megalopolis. The Sultan invited people from all over Europe and the Middle East to come and settle the city. Alongside that, the city underwent a massive restoration effort, having new infrastructure, mosques, markets, and palaces sprung up, which to this day can be seen even when walking through the streets of Istanbul. All over town, one can notice a mix of Byzantine and Islamic influence, which makes the place like no other. Anywhere you go, there is so much detail ordaining the buildings that it is absolutely surreal. However, even though Constantinople was revitalized under the Ottomans, it did not gain its official name of Istanbul until the 1930s, when the father of the modern Turkish nation, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, renamed the city into Istanbul. Its modern name derives from the Greek phrase Eistanpolin, meaning to the city, as many citizens outside of the metropolis would refer to it in that way. To start off our journey to Istanbul, we head out to our first stop, the Grand Bazaar. Located in the center of the Golden Horn, also known as Fatih, surrounded by several grand and mesmerizing mosques, lies the Grand Bazaar, known across the world as one of the largest and oldest covered markets in the world. The Grand Bazaar spans across 61 streets and within its walls hosts over 4,000 active shops. Anywhere from between 200,000 to 400,000 shoppers come to spend their money here daily. On an annual basis, around 91 million people visit the bazaar, which is no surprise when walking through it, as the place is sprawling with life. The bazaar first came to life during the mid-15th century after the fall of Constantinople. Alongside many other construction projects instituted by Mehmed II, the Grand Bazaar was one of them as a way of stimulating economic activity within the city. For the next 200 years, the market was continually expanding until it ultimately reached its final form, which you can see today in the 17th century. In the early days, the main goods being offered here were textiles. However, over time, the bazaar started offering luxury goods such as jewelry, and as the Ottoman Empire reached its peak, you could find almost anything offered by the merchants, from spices, clothes, tea, hell, even femboy slaves. Today, most of the traditional goods are being sold, minus the slaves. But hey, if you ask nicely, maybe you can get your hands on a Slovenian or two. Moving east from the Grand Bazaar, following the Yençiler Street, you will be met with a sprawling street where you can see people going on about their business. Colorful shop windows decorate the streets alongside a variety of local fast food restaurants, as well as traditional ice cream sellers trolling unsuspecting tourists. Some might call it cruel to deprive Americans of their ice cream. I call it civil service. On the street, you can also find several ancient monuments adorning the street, such as the Column of Constantine, reminding everyone of the city's abundant history. Upon traveling far enough east, you will eventually reach the ancient heart of Istanbul, the Sultan Ahmed Square, also known as the Hippodrome. Sultan Ahmed Square is packed with historically important premises. On its south lies one of the city's most important mosques, the Blue Mosque, also known as the Sultan Ahmed Mosque. The Blue Mosque is one of the defining monuments of Istanbul. This hypnotic beauty of architectural marvel came into existence in the early 17th century, after the Ottomans had a not-so-great campaign trying to conquer Austrian associates, and after getting their ass handed to them on a silver platter by the Persians. The then Sultan in charge, Ahmed I, decided to build a grand mosque to reaffirm Ottoman power and prestige, because nothing screams confidence like spending abundant loads of money. Thus, the Blue Mosque was constructed on the site where the palace of Byzantine emperors previously laid. While the mosque is an architectural marvel that incorporates both Byzantine and Islamic elements in its architectural design, alongside it being decorated with over 20,000 hand-painted ceramic tiles, it wasn't built without controversy. At the time of its construction, Sultan Ahmed I financed its erection from the state treasury. While today this is more or less standard practice, back in the day of dying of dysentery and infections gotten from spiky twig scratches, such projects were mostly funded by spoils of war. Thus, the Ottoman aristocracy threw a bit of a hissy fit, but of course, nothing came of it, because otherwise they would have gotten the Vlad Tepes treatment. Standing directly across the Blue Mosque is none other than the one and only Sofia, arguably the world's greatest and most influential architectural works. Hagia Sophia's conception dates back all the way to the 4th century. However, the building we all know and love today was built by Emperor Justinian I in the 6th century, upon the grounds where Hagia Sophia's predecessor stood. What's captivating about its construction is that it was built in just about 6 years, which when you look at the time period and the magnitude of the project, it is simply mind-blowing. Upon its construction, it became the epicenter of Christendom and later on Orthodoxy in the empire and abroad. Throughout the ages, the church saw conflict left and right. During the Fourth Crusade, it was looted by none other than the Venetians, and after the conquest of Constantinople, Mehmed II turned Hagia Sophia into a mosque and erected additional minarets, as well as a great chandelier, mihrab, and minbar. It stayed as a mosque until 1935, when under the wave of secularization within the Turkish Republic, the mosque was proclaimed a museum. However, in the year 2020, Hagia Sophia was repurposed and turned once again into a mosque, which definitely didn't piss off a shit ton of people.
If you have Greek god, you would have win, but you lose.
Disregarding the fact that this behemoth of a project was built all the way back when people were still arguing over how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, the answer is 1 by the way, Hagia Sophia is one of the greatest examples of Byzantine architecture. Its interior is filled with mosaics and marbles done with the utmost craftsmanship, but the most impressive part of the mosque is its dome. Due to its massive size and weight, it is nothing less but awe-inspiring. Alongside with the two main mosques on the square, Sultan Ahmed Square is also the home to the Colossus, which is a 32-meter column which was used as a turning point for horses during races at the Hippodrome. Next to it is the Serpentine column, which is another monument which was brought in from Apollo, Greece, to protect the city from invasions. Near you can also find the German fountain, which was built in honor of Kaiser Wilhelm II and its travels to Istanbul. Continuing east, eventually you will end up at the famous Bosphorus Strait. The strait is arguably one of the most famous and commercially significant waterways in the world, as well as the narrowest navigation waterway. It connects the Black Sea with the Sea of Marmara. Ever since ancient times, the passage has been of immeasurable importance for trade and military security, not to mention that the Ottoman control of the strait played a crucial role in the fall of Constantinople. On the northern side of the Golden Horn, you can find the famous Galata Bridge that connects Fatih and Beyoğlu districts, on which you can find hundreds of fishermen fishing for what the sea has to offer, day and night. The bridge you see today was built in the 90s, however, much like the majority of the structures in the city, it too dates back to the 6th century, which was still a bit later after the birth of the Queen of England, when Emperor Justinian built the first bridge on these parts. The bridge wasn't only historically important, but culturally as well. Within the Beyoğlu district, many non-Muslims and foreign diplomats lived and worked. Because of this, it was commonly mentioned in Turkish works of literature. From the bridge, you can also see Istanbul's magnificent skyline, ornamented by a variety of mosques such as the Yeni and Rustem Pasha Mosque, which are beautiful beyond belief. Across the bridge you can also find yet another one of Istanbul's most famous landmarks, the Galata Tower. Standing 67 meters tall, the Galata Tower was built back in the 13th century by the Genoans and first boasted the name Tower of Christ. After the city fell to the Ottomans, it was mostly used for spotting fires, essentially being a glorified fire station. Continuing north of the Galata Tower, you will enter into one of Istanbul's most commercial districts, the Istiklal Avenue. Spanning 1.4 kilometers, Istiklal is one of the largest pedestrian zones within the city, with almost 3 million daily visitors. The street is filled with shops and cafes, which are reminiscent of most European downtown areas. The avenue is also decorated with mostly late Ottoman era buildings, which were designed in a variety of styles ranging from neoclassical, neo-Gothic to Beaux Arts and even Art Nouveau. Following the end of Istiklal Avenue, you will end up at yet another one of Istanbul's famous squares, the Taksim Square, also known as the heart of modern Istanbul. The square can trace its origin to the 18th century. Originally, it was used as a collection and distribution center for water, thus its name Taksim, which means distribution in Arabic. On it you can find the Republic Monument, which commemorates the formation of the Turkish Republic. On it, the founder of the Republic, Kemal Mustafa Ataturk, is depicted alongside several other persons of historical importance. On one side, Ataturk is shown in military uniform, which symbolizes the Turkish War of Independence, while the other side shows him in modern clothing, depicting him as a statesman, which just shows the duality of man. In the background stands yet another spectacular mosque, the Taxi Mosque. Although it was built in 2021, it is still a great work of art and a place of worship, as it can hold up to 3,000 worshippers at the same time. Near Taksim Square is also the Ayatriada Greek Orthodox Cathedral, which is the largest Orthodox church in the city. Although it was built in the 19th century, it is still a reminder of Istanbul's multicultural past, and arguably even present. On the outskirts of the Fatih district, you can also find remnants of the walls of Constantinople, which since ancient times protected the city against foreign invaders. Within the walls, there's a variety of gates, which used to be the main entrance to the city. Today, the city has well outgrown their protection, thus they lay there reminding us of Istanbul's dense past and history. And yeah, that would be Istanbul. Of course, this is just simply scratching the surface of this magnificent city. Unfortunately, I only had a chance to spend 3 days there, but considering how simply packed with culture and history the city center is, there are undoubtedly even more stories to tell about Istanbul, and 20 minutes certainly does not do enough justice. I cannot recommend you enough to come and visit Istanbul. It is an ancient city with history spilling out the brim. Every alleyway, every passage, every street has something to tell, and you can virtually never be bored when exploring the city. If you enjoyed my video, press that subscribe button, and if you really enjoyed it, become a member today, like these wonderful people: Craig Zaves, Mickey D, Pavan, Anthony YouTube, Roland S, Nekwa, Emmanuel Donchila, Andrei Sorin Parskiv, Pudelraz, Ramberlads, Yojev Borat, Pissy Chan, Seal King, Badou, Igru, Pope Pierce, Jonathan Murphy, Adam Cube, and war criminal Xander. You guys are awesome. And yeah, my name is Janos, and you've watched Living Around the Clean Europe.
Hey, why